Can you tell me a little bit about what things were like before we worked on your project together?
Yeah, so I'm newer to the music scene, especially with the software and mixing and stuff. Definitely not my strong suit, recording, anything like that. I had my guitar and I could play, and then I had these ideas in my head. And I think I still liked them as songs, but the reality is it was me on a guitar when it was missing a lot of fullness. So I was really looking for something to complete the song and make it full. The biggest challenge I was facing was trying to coordinate all of the different pieces together for a song. And so I worked on an online platform for a little bit where I would have to plan out everything in my head all the way in advance and be like, okay, so I want drums and I want them to sound like this. And then I want steel guitar, I want it to sound like this. And then I want electric guitar here. I want this solo, it's got to sound like this. And it was like coordinating because I was working with a completely different person for every one. And as a result, if one thing was different, then my whole plan would fall apart, because if the fifth guy in line did something different, then all of a sudden do I need to go back and change the first four guys? So I would say consolidation was the biggest issue for me.
Gotcha. And what do you think would have happened if you didn't solve that problem by coming and working here?
I'd probably have some songs that were like a little disjointed. Like I think they might still be good songs, but I think the matching of everything would have been a little bit off, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to customize specifics the way that I wanted to, where like, well, I want everything to drop out right here. That's very difficult to do when you're getting 5 different musicians at different times to do different things to make sure they drop out at the same spot, or your mixer does it how you want it or whatever.
So what made you decide that it was time to hire a producer?
I think one was frustration with working like that. So I think I was getting a little bit stressed out where I was writing songs and like my list was building. And I have to do all of this for every song. So that's going to take all this time, all this money, and then mentally, like, I need to draw out everything that I want in the song exactly how I want it with no changes beforehand. And so that was something that I was like, if I can just have this all consolidated to be able to do it in a way that I can do what I want to do, which is write the music, have some ideas, and then have somebody else execute, that would be awesome.
What stood out to you about working with me?
I would say 3 things in particular. One is I've got some songs where I have tons of ideas. I want it to be specifically like this. I want this to enter at this point. I want this to fade at this point, this to get quieter, this to build right here. It's very specific. I know exactly what instruments I want. And you were very helpful with that. Hearing my ideas and translating them into actual execution to where it's actually the sound that I like. So the first one is like when I've got these really specific ideas. Second one would be when I don't have as specific of ideas and I'm more like, well, I'd kind of be interested in seeing what this sounds like. Or maybe we could add this here. Let's see what that does. And then getting some of your expertise. Well, what do you think would sound good here? I kind of just wanted to sound a little bit like a mixture of these 5 songs, like that kind of vibe.
Right.
And that was the second piece that was like, okay, so if I don't have everything together beforehand, then you were able to kind of take it. We could work together a little bit and figure out what we wanted the final product to be. And then the third one is the final step of that. If there's a song, I'm like, I love the song, love the lyrics, but to be honest, I don't really know what I want it to sound like instrument-wise. Do I want to have it be this full, huge band and loud sound, or do I want it to be quieter or whatever? So that third part was me being able to say, hey, I'd love for you to just see what you can do with this. Here's the general idea. Here's a song that I'd like it to kind of sound like maybe. And then you're able to take that without much input from me and then build it around it in a good way.
Did you have any hesitations before working with me?
I think the hesitations are always, is it going to end how I want? And then if I'm spending money on music, is it going to be what I want at the end? And then also, I didn't know tons about you at the time, so there wasn't this big name to drum in. That's why it was so pleasantly surprising to get the success that we had and how happy I am with the final product.
That's awesome, dude. So what's changed since we started working together?
One, I get to be really confident in the music that I have out there. I'm actually like really excited to promote my music. If somebody comes up to me and says, I heard my song, it's a good thing. I'm not like, oh, hopefully you saw through this part. It's all good, and I've gotten tons of positive feedback there. I've been able to build some momentum on social media and Spotify, presence that I did not have before. And as a result of that, I'm going to be making some work changes to do music. I'll be working part-time with music being my main focus moving forward, which I'm very excited about.
That's awesome. That's a huge milestone for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Is there any particular moment or event that made you decide to go and pursue music as a career?
I think it was just over time of realizing, wow, I love to do this. This would be so cool. And honestly, my first thought with pursuing music as a career wasn't what comes with it or trying to make it big or anything like that. It was more just, if it's my career, I get to get better at it. And I'd love to get better at it to where I can be doing more impressive things and solos. And so it was kind of more of a gradual thing, but that was the opening. I'd love to do this more often so I can get better at it.
What do you expect your music career to look like moving forward?
In the short term, just playing live whenever I can, getting in front of people, getting my name out there. I'm really excited that now I have something where if they look me up, they can see that I've got elite level sounding music. Whether or not people's preference or my music is good or not, it sounds top of the line. So I'm really excited about that. That gives me a layer of credibility if somebody hears me and goes and looks me up. So the near term, that's going to be a lot of just playing live and then also point people back to the songs I have out now that I'm really excited about.
Sweet, bro. What part of the process helped you the most?
The best part of the process for me was I got to do music and think about music instead of how am I going to record this or how am I going to mix this or who am I going to reach out to do this instrument that I know how to play. Instead, I just got to focus on this is the sound that I want, this is the song that I love, that I've written, and now let's combine those two. And I got to focus on the fun parts to get what I wanted. Yeah.
That is exactly true. You got to do the fun part. Did anything surprise you during our time working together?
The thing that surprised me the most, there was a particular song. It was one of those songs that like you just can hear it in your head and you've got all these ideas for it. And I want this to do this and everything to explode onto the scene here and drop off here. And so I had it in my head for probably 6 to 8 months before we even met. And I had tried to do it through an online platform with multiple people involved, and it just did not work at all. Like I ended up having to change what they did and write a whole new song on that. And this one we talked about in person, and I gave you this document with like all the lyrics and like what I wanted where. And I gave you that at like 4 p.m. on one day, and then the next day we met at noon, and you had pretty much like everything that I wanted together exactly as I had heard it in my head, and it was so cool. That was the best surprise of the whole thing.
That's awesome, dude. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about working with me?
I would say, what are your hesitations? It's not often in life that you get to do something that is better than you expect. You know, like most of the time, whatever your expectations are, whether that's somebody you're working with or something that you're doing, most of the time it's better to temper your expectations because it'll let you down. And in this case, it's the complete opposite. Like it's such a pleasant surprise. Get over the fence, you know?
Looking back, was it worth the investment?
Yes, I think so. Mm-hmm.
All right. What's one piece of advice you'd give someone in the same situation you were in?
Other than working with you?
Right, yeah.
Trust the process. Each step of the way, there might be changes that you don't understand, or at one point you're like, oh, I'm not sure on that. And then if you just trust the process and you keep working it out, that's what I really liked about you, is you were about the end product. Like, we want to get this, how you like it. And so we're not going to skip some detail along the way that's going to trip us up later down the line. So just kind of trusting the process that the end product is going to be what you want it to be.
What are you most excited about in the next chapter of your music?
Before this, I was really focused on I need to have something to promote. You know, somebody looks me up, that they can find something that represents me well. And so I'm kind of now transitioning from practice, record, get everything together, into like, let's get out there, let's get people fired up, let's send them to my pages and get them listening.